First up is Kite World by Keith Roberts. This is a first edition in the Golanx yellow. It's in very nice condition. It's in a plastic wrap, so the dust jacket's in good nick. And this is a signed copy. That cost me 10 of your Earth pounds from Porcupine Books, which, as I've mentioned before, has a extremely quaint website. But if you persist, there is gold to be found in them thy hills. So Keith Roberts, Kite World, looking forward to that. Gathering Evidence by Martin McInnes. So that completes my set of Martin McInnes books. He of In Ascension, which was published to much acclaim last year. And Gathering Evidence is set in Africa amongst a troop of bonobos and chimpanzees. And there's some unusual behaviour amongst them. It's printed on the boards, the laminated boards, and it's got this very nice reflective kind of pattern on it, which is actually a bit difficult to see in the glare. But you can see it's metallic and lots of kind of rainbow colours. Very nice. Is that signed? No, it's not signed. First edition though. And then in the last haul, I got from that guy on eBay that was selling kind of remaindered stock from a printer's at some point, a Bob Shaw book called I've forgotten what it was called there, The Wooden Spaceships. And that is the sequel to The Ragged Astronauts. So I sought this out online because it was a bit silly to have book 2 of a trilogy, but not have book 1 or 3. So I found that. I can't remember how much that cost me. Not a huge amount, probably around a tenner, a bit less maybe. And then The Fugitive Worlds, which is book 3. So I now have a matching set of those Bob Shaw books in the Golanx, all of which are in super condition, all of which are first editions. Very nice. Next, I have To the Stars and Back, which is a tribute to Eric Brown, a science fiction author, British author who died last year, maybe perhaps even the year before. And this is a short story anthology. There are 15 contributors, and what's nice about this edition from Newcom Press is that it is signed by. They've got a little signature sheet. And every one of the contributors, that's the first page, including Jim Burns, who did the artwork, and every one of them has signed it. So that's rather nice. So that is a new book. It's a limited edition. There are, I think it's 100 of these. Let me try and find I think it's like 100 or maybe 150, and this is number 61. So it's a numbered limited edition. Perfect. So I've been seeking these out for a little while. I'm still trying to find the Caves of Steel and the Naked Sun, but they are super difficult to find, and you just have to kind of be patient and keep searching and hope that they turn up at some point. I paid not a huge amount of money, like £6 or £7 for this online, plus delivery, and it's in really nice condition. It's a little bit bumped at the bottom of the dust jacket there, but I think the judicious application of a suitable cover, that will be fine. And then I got this the other day on the third attempt. The first 2 attempts, for whatever reason, the order was cancelled by the seller. They couldn't find it, or they sold it to someone else, or whatever, I don't know. And I found this, of all places, at World of Books, and I paid £3.90 for it, including postage, and it is in pretty much perfect condition. So very happy about that. Sadly, I think that Caves of Steel and Naked Sun are going to cost me a lot more than £3.90, but I would like to have the full set of all 4 Robots books. Very nice. And these were the 1980s reissue by Granada, beg your pardon. And very nice they are too, with the Chris Foss artwork. I do actually have these in paperback with the same Chris Foss artwork on it, so don't ask me to explain why I've bought those. I just wanted to. And then there's the first of 2 or 3 Adam Roberts books in this haul, Yellow Blue Tibia. And this is actually an ex-library book, although it's not too bestickered. It does have the usual borrowing slip, and it was only borrowed once and then was subsequently withdrawn. This is one of his sort of mid career books, if I can put it that way. It's not one of his earliest, not one of his latest, kind of around the middle somewhere. Yellow Blue Tibia. And I get the impression that nearly all of that print run went to libraries because it's very difficult to find one that didn't. Next, I got a Paul Macaulay. This one was also from Porcupine Books, from Brian, he of the very quaint 25-year-old website. And this is What Whole Wide World. A nice hardback, quite a nice graphic design on it, actually. Maybe it's not, it's terribly colourful, vintage era cover up, but I quite like the way that this is done. And this is The Secret of Life. No, it's not. It's Whole Wide World. Oh, I've forgotten about that. Slightly randomly, it's signed. That is from 2001, by which time he had a decent number of books under his belt already, probably 10 under his belt. So he's already a reasonably prolific novelist at that stage. First edition, signed, Whole Wide World. Happy days. And I was very, very happy to find, in the same sort of browsing visit to Porcupine Books old-fashioned website, Seasons of Plenty by Colin Greenland, which is a hardback. As you can see, it's first edition. And I think I'm right in saying that this is signed too, is it? Yeah. Also signed. So I got 4 different signed hardback books from Brian at Porcupine Books. And having found this, I immediately went off to try to find books 1 and 3 of the Plenty trilogy in hardback. As far as I can tell, they don't exist. So my mission now is to find, so they were paperback originals, there were no hardback. So I do have Take Back Plenty, which is the first of the trilogy. And this book, the reason I've been looking for them is that this book came up in my 1990s space opera video from a couple of months back. And I didn't know a great deal about it until I did the research for the video. I'm very much looking forward to reading it. It's apparently very, very good. Rip-roaring, kind of somewhat old school fun space opera. This isn't in brilliant condition. Unfortunately, I would like to upgrade it at some point. It's pretty, curved spine, and it's pretty cracked. But it's certainly a good reading copy. And then Mother of Plenty is the third of the trilogy, and I have not been able to find a good copy of that anywhere yet. So I'm still looking for that. But the other day I did find The Plenty Principle, which is a short story collection set in the same world. And this is not perfect either. It's a bit spine creased, but certainly a good reading copy. These books were all found on a visit to a charity shop. I forget which one exactly, probably more than one. And I found Gregory Benford, The Martian Race, which is in pretty much perfect condition. I think it's a first edition, for what it's worth, first edition paperback. No, it's a reprint, nothing special. And then I've got, I do already have this in paperback, but I took the opportunity to upgrade. My copy was fairly faded and spine creased. This one is in pretty good condition. It is a reprint. And I gather the story in it isn't all that. The second book is meant to be, the second book of the Uplift saga is meant to be much better. I found a Neil Asher book. I don't know why I bought it, really, because I've got about 15 Neil Asher books and I've only read about 2 of them. But this was not one that I have, so I thought I might as well get it in paperback. Why not? And then I was interested to find Sister Alice by Robert Reed, which is the same guy that wrote Marrow, the Great Ship saga, of which there are many. This is not set in that world. As far as I can tell, I don't think it's anything to do with Marrow. Tales from Earthsea by Ursula K. Le Guin, which is a short story collection set in the Earthsea universe, and it was published at the same time, if I remember rightly, as The Other Wind, which is the 5th Earthsea book, which was published in the early 2000s. But, I probably want the hardback eventually, but that's what fell into my hands, so that's what I'm putting up with for now. The Thing Itself by Adam Roberts. This is a book that I spent quite a lot of futile hours searching for in a hardback. I couldn't for the life of me work out why I could never find any, given that it's not that obscure a book. And it's because this is the only one of his books that's not been published in hardback. So it's a paperback original. And this is The Thing Itself, which is a study of sort of philosophy, Kantish philosophy. More than that, really, I don't know much about. But so it's disappointing it's not available in hardback. I suppose I'll get over it. Peter F. Hamilton's Mind Star Rising, which is the first, I think, anyway, yes, it is. It's the first of the Greg Mandel trilogy, which were the first 3 books that Peter Hamilton wrote. So before there was a Commonwealth, before there was a Nightstorm trilogy, before there was any Voids or anything else, there was the Greg Mandel trilogy. And I have read them. I must have borrowed them from the library or something, or probably an iffy ebook. And I enjoyed them. I think they're pretty good. They don't have the sort of epic kind of broad brush space opera scope that some of his later books do. It's a bit, dare I say it, a bit more character driven. There's spaceships and stuff happening in orbit and what have you, but it's mainly earthbound. They weren't published in paperback. They weren't published in hardback in the UK. They went straight to paperback. In the US, however, a couple of years after they appeared in paperback in the UK, they were published by Tor in hardback. So this one came all the way from the US. It took about 4 weeks to arrive. And I've been looking for the other 2, and I found a really nice copy, supposedly fine or near fine. And the book itself wasn't expensive. It was under $5, but the shipping was $40. So I'm just going to wait until I find one more reasonably priced, I think. I might buy that one and get it shipped to a friend in the US and just wait until she next comes over to the UK on business, and I'll grab it from her then. But for now, I just have that one. And then I got this from a little bit of a lucky dip on World of Books, as I sometimes do. I sort of waded through their science fiction filter and to see what I could find. And I got The 10% Thief, which is a book that came out last year, I think, maybe even this year. Let's have a look. Yeah, last year. And I think it's up for a couple of awards this year. I don't know if it's a Hugo or Arthur C. Clarke award. I don't know. But that's a new book. I look forward to reading that. And it's in really nice condition. Having really enjoyed Lord Valentine's Castle, I've been trying to fill out my collection of the Madripoor books that go with it. So this is a short story collection set in the same world that kind of fleshes out the universe a little bit more. This is a US edition. It's published by Arbor House. There is a UK edition with the same artwork on it by, I think, in Gollancz, but I couldn't find that one. This one it was the one that I could get. I paid, again, £4 or £5 for it, something like that. And it's in really nice condition for a book that's nigh on 40 years old. I picked up the books 2 and 3 in the Quantum Thief trilogy by Hannu Ryanami, and I have a paperback copy of the Quantum Thief, but I wanted to find it in hardback, and they're surprisingly difficult to find and quite expensive when you do. I think it must have just had a pretty small print run. I found this on World of Books. It cost me £3.90 or something like that. It wasn't expensive. It's got a bit of a spine lean on it, which might be cured just by being stood up straight on a shelf, but otherwise it's in really nice condition. Text block is maybe a little bit faded. It is. I've just noticed actually. It is ex-library, so it does have a little sticker on it, and it does have. I initially thought that was the publisher's symbol, but actually it's a sticker that might come off with a bit of persuasion. And then another Paul Macaulay, White Devil, which is another one from Brian at Porcupine Books, and I believe this one is signed too. Yeah, I think this cost me £5, and it is. It's a UK first edition from, 20 years ago, from 2004. It's in absolutely pristine condition. It's signed, first edition, happy days. The next few came from a productive visit to a couple of charity bookshops near me a few days ago. The first is Asimov's Bicentennial Man, which I was surprised to find on consulting my records that I don't have. And it's not a brilliant copy, so let's call it a reading copy, but it'll do. I found a nice copy of Floating Worlds by Cecilia Holland. I do have this in a sort of yellow Gollancz paperback reprint from a few years back, which is nothing special from a cover point of view. And this one is a beautiful picture. It does have a scantily clad lady on it. Yes, Floating Worlds by Cecilia Holland with some attractive artwork on the front, very colourful, certainly a lot more colourful than the boring yellow one that I've got. And this is not, I don't think it's a first edition paperback. I think it's a reprint. Yeah, it's a reprint. I don't know. Well, it's a reprint. It's the same edition, but a newer print run. And it's a lot more attractive as a book. I think I'm right in saying that she only wrote one science fiction book, and it's that. And then I was really happy to find The Shockwave Rider by John Brunner, which is a sort of cyberpunk offering from Mr. Brunner, published in 1975, I think. Yeah, in 1975. So almost like a precursor to cyberpunk proper. Some of the same tropes, I gather. And that is a Del Rey US edition from, March 1976. This would be a US first edition. And then I found The City in the Middle of the Night by Charlie Jane Anders. There's no cover. It's printed directly onto the boards. I don't know anything about this. It's pretty new, I think. Yeah, 5 years ago, 2019. The City in the Middle of the Night, it's called. And then I also saw, which I bought for giggles, Space Opera. You know, I like a bit of space opera. This is called Space Opera because it involves a singing contest. It's like the Eurovision Song Contest on a galactic scale. And I think humanity has to sing for its supper. Yes, the great galactic civilizations gather for the Metagalactic Grand Prix. Species far and wide, complete in feats of song, dance, and or whatever facsimile of these can be performed. So it's like Britain's Got Talent or America's Got Talent, but on a pan-galactic scale. I think it's pretty tongue-in-cheek, not meant to be taken too seriously. A bit of light, frothy fun. The Flight of the Aphrodite, which is a sort of European Space Agency mission to investigate strange radio signals that are coming from Jupiter. They always seem to come from Jupiter. What is it about Jupiter that fascinates the originators of these mysterious radio signals? And then I was really pleased to find Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John Mandel, who wrote Station 11, which was a very successful book a few years back, which I reread during the pandemic. Perhaps I shouldn't have done that, but I really like it. And this one is set on the moon, as the name suggests. I've been looking for that for a little while, and it cost me the princely sum of £3.49, and it's in really nice condition. And then I found Lois McMaster Bujold book, which is one of the Vorkosigan sagas, Cryoburn. I actually have it in paperback, so I'll sell that on now. But this was $1.99, and it's in absolutely pristine condition. I mean, it's only 10 years old, so it's not like it's had to survive any particular privations over the years. But it's a Bain US first edition in absolutely tip-top condition, nothing wrong with it at all. After Ken MacLeod was waxing so lyrical about the Vorkosigan saga the other day and about how much he rated Lois Bujol's writing, I have some newfound respect. The first book, I've only read the first one, Shards of Honor, is it? And I found it a little bit soft-focused, lovey-dovey, so I shall... Well, apparently they get better and better, so I should give it the benefit of the doubt. Jeb Mercurio, Ascent, which is a sort of alternate history. If the Russian space program was the most successful one, and it tells the story of a Russian Air Force pilot who goes on to become an astronaut or a cosmonaut more properly. And this is from back in 2007, which is meant to be very good. And I got this from World of Books for not much money, a few pounds. It's got a sticker on it that I need to remove, but it's Brazil by Ian MacDonald. I do have this in a trade paperback with the same cover art, but this is hardback. It's first edition. It's got some glorious artwork on the spine and on the back. It's nothing special. It's not signed or anything, but it is a first edition from 2007. I'll happily add that to my shelves, and I can pass the trade paperback on to someone else. A couple of Stephen Baxter's. This is World Engines Destroyer. I've got World Engines Creator, which is the second book, so this is the first one. I haven't read it yet because I was missing the first one. This is not in perfect condition. It's got a bit of spine lean, and it's got a bit of sticker residue on the back, but that'll come off easily. And this is from fairly recently, I think, 2019, yeah, so 5 years ago. I haven't yet felt the urge to become completist about Stephen Baxter's work, although I did go through a phase of reading his work probably 15 years ago. I do have a fair few of his books, but I don't feel the urge to collect them all yet. It may happen. And then I've got Galaxius, which I think I'm right in saying is a standalone, singleton book. I don't think it's part of a duology it is standalone. What would happen to the world if the sun went out? By the middle of the 21st century, humanity has managed to overcome a series of catastrophic events and maintain some sense of stability. Well, there's hope for us yet. Space exploration has begun again, science has led the way, but then one day, the sun goes out, solar panels are useless, and the world begins to freeze. Earth begins to fall out of its orbit. The end is nigh. Someone has sent us a sign. It's not a good one from the sound of it. So that's the tease, the tee up for that. Sounds interesting. It's a little bit like Neil Stephenson's Seven Eves in its dramatic premise. The latest of my slightly random Stephen King finds. As I've said many times before, I'm not going out of my way to collect these, but if I find a Stephen King book in hardback, in good condition, then I'm going to grab it. And this was $2.49, so trivial amount of money really. It's Bag of Bones, which is from about 20 years ago, if I remember rightly, 1998, so more than that, 25 years plus ago. And then I found Colin Greenland has written some fantasy works as well. In fact, his first three books were a fantasy trilogy, which I might try to find if I can summon the enthusiasm for them. And he's written a non-fiction book about the new wave. I forget the title of it, it's quite long, but he has written several science fiction books, some of which were in the Take Back Plenty trilogy, and then there's this one, Harm's Way, which is a sort of steampunk-ish, it looks like sailing ships in space, so it's a bit bonkers, but I do like the sound of it. I'm looking forward to reading that. Another Adam Roberts book. This one, I suspect, is one part of a two-part slipcase edition, or there certainly was a two-part slipcase edition, and perhaps they were sold separately as well, I don't know, but this is on its own. It's Swiftly. No, it's not. It's Splinter by Adam Roberts. It is a slender... I don't think we can say... Well, it's not that slender. It's not a novella. It's 240-odd pages, but it's a rather nice edition, and I think I'm right in saying it is signed, and it's a limited edition of 1,000, and this is number 142. It's a very nice edition. The paper is that kind of glossy, high-quality, probably acid-free paper. Very nice indeed. So I paid a few quid for that. It was something like £10 or £12, maybe a little bit more, including postage. But it's very nice. Larry Niven's The Integral Tree, which is the first book of that duology. This is the UK first edition of The Smoke Ring, which is a sequel. And this came all the way from the US. It is a US first edition. It's got the Mike Whelan cover, and it's got deckled edges, which I personally don't like. It just looks like the book's falling apart. Can you see those? Yeah, I think I'm right in saying it's signed. Have I imagined that? No, it isn't. Signed by the man himself. It does say to Don. I could convince myself that that's a John, so that would be nice. To John, Larry Niven. And I paid about $20, I think, including postage, to have that shipped across, which for a signed first edition didn't seem too bad. And then yesterday in a charity shop, I found Prelude to Foundation by Isaac Asimov, the hardback edition. It's got a bit of lean, so it's not perfect, but it cost me $2.99, late 80s, I think. Yeah, 1988. Very nice. And then I have another Paul McCauley. This time it's The Quiet War, which is the first of a series of 4 books. I have the other 3, but I didn't have this one. So I've been looking for a nice copy of this in hardback because it isn't a library copy. And this is that, and it didn't cost me, it was £3-4, something like that, from wasn't World of Books, one of their Awesome Books or Better World Books or something like that. But it's in very nice condition. It's got a little bit of scuffing to the bottom of the dust jacket, but nothing too melodramatic. And then I found The Boy on the Bridge by M.R. Carey, who wrote The Girl with All the Gifts. So I believe that this is set in the same world, to the same kind of fungal, ravaged world that The Girl with All the Gifts is set in. Adding to my Chris Beckett collection, I've got Tomorrow, which is one of his more recent books. I think it was from 2021, and it's in essentially perfect condition. This may even have been a new book. How about that? As in, it's new stock, it's not used or secondhand. And then in a charity shop visit some while back now, I found 3 books that I'd never heard of. I think it's pretty kind of popcorn military science fiction type thing. David Feintuch, and this is the sort of epic sea fort saga continues. So this is one of these kind of British Royal Navy dramas of the 17th or 18th century, transported into space, much like David Webber's done with what's-her-face, Honor Harrington. And there are many others. So this is like Horatio Hornblower in space or C.S. Forster in space. And there are 6, I think, of these, and I've got 3, and they're randomly spread across the series. I certainly don't have the first one. So I'm in no rush. I'll look out for those, and I'll give them a go at some point. And if they're no good, I'll move them on. And this was the World of Books disappointment. This was supposed to be a hardback. It was listed as a hardback. It came as a paperback, which is all the more disappointing because I paid what I thought were good hardback prices. I think it was £5 or something like that for a paperback. And okay, it's in reasonable condition, but that's a lot more than you would normally pay online. Never mind, I will eventually find Queen of Angels, which is a Greg Bear book from 1991. I've been adding to my little Greg Bear collection of hardbacks recently. I would like to get that too. That's everything. Tell me, what have you been doing on the book buying front? Do let me know in the comments. I'd be glad to hear from you. As always, thank you for watching, and until next time, goodbye for now.